pay for some of these updates that we need. We try to address them. We spend almost $2 million on parking lots and air conditioning. You know, we try to do some capital projects out of our operating funds, our general fund, but it just isn't enough to do some of the big lifting. If you want to do something like a bond, like the expansion, you need a bond. So we want to expand the ECC, we need to remodel the high school, which is our oldest building, we want to upgrade our athletic facilities. Those things take a bond, and so people are wondering, you know, we see all these upgrades in other districts. Well, Coopersville passed a $43 million bond, Spring Lake $50 million, Hamilton $42 million, Jenison $68 million a couple years ago, and they're going for another $117 this May. Holland $75 million, Zeeland $77 million, Hudsonville $140 million. West Ottawa passed a $90 million bond 4 years ago and just passed another $237 million bond. And so that's how these districts are able to pay for these, you know, huge athletic investments that they've made. So going back a little bit, when these new homes go in, it's not like it doesn't benefit us. It would benefit us if all 200 homes had school-age children and would send them to our school. Then we'd get more per pupil, and that'd be great. Our enrollment has been flat for 5 years, and so it hasn't really been that bump. The other way those new homes help us, though, is property taxes do help pay for our debt fund. So all these bonds that we've passed in previous years to build the ECC, to build this building and the high school, and all those other bonds, these houses do help pay for, oh, am I done? Okay, just checking. It's my 3 minutes up. They do help pay to pay down that debt. So the new homes coming in is definitely a benefit. It just doesn't help us in our general operating fund. The other thing that hurts us, and one of the reasons why our debt millage is so high, we have 12 mills, is because it's a lot harder for us to pay down our debt because our commercial base, our industry base is so low. And so if you look at it, for every 1 mil of tax that we levy, the district gets $790,000 approximately to pay off our debt. In Jenison, for every 1 mil, it's 1.2 million. In Zeeland, for every 1 mil, it's 1.9 million. In Hudsonville, 2.2 million, so almost 3 times what we get. And in Grand Haven, every 1 mil, they get $3 million to pay off their debt. And that's why it's so hard for us in Allendale to pay this debt down and keep our facilities upgraded the same way that other districts are able to do that. Now, again, we've done a great job. Kudos to Scott and the work he's done with Baker Tilly. We've refinanced our bonds over the years. We've saved about 9 years off the life of our bonds. We've saved tens of millions of dollars in interest payments. So we've done a good job, and we've shortened the length of that, and that's why we can go out for this ask, and there won't have to be an increase to taxes, which is great. But I just think it's important that people understand those two pieces. We see all these houses going in. That's great. It helps us pay down our debt. Does not help our general fund, does not help us pay salaries, does not help us buy supplies, does not help us pay for gas or diesel for the buses, any of those things. It does help us pay down the debt. I would encourage you, if you know anybody who wants to open a new factory, maybe to move them into Allendale. That would be nice, but that's kind of again, not complaining, just helping folks to understand this is why we're not in the same situation. I always say all these schools, we're in the same ocean, but we're not in the same boat, right? We're all getting through the ocean a little differently. So, you know, those are the kind of things that I think will be discussed tomorrow night too. We do have for those of you who've been on the board for a while, you know, every 2 years we do our community budget guide, and Scott puts together, it's about 6 pages of really good information about how our budget works. And we're about to send that out again this year, so our folks will be able to see that again. But anytime if somebody's got a question about the budget, please have them call me. It's a little confusing sometimes how this stuff works. But I wanted to put that out there. I don't know if the board has any questions about that or.
The meeting tomorrow, is that like a formal presentation at a certain time and then like answer and question and answer after that?
Great question. 6 o'clock tomorrow in this boardroom again is the community forum. So 6 o'clock tomorrow right here. They will do a presentation. There's a PowerPoint presentation that they'll do. And again, Baker Tilly will kind of go through, you know, where we are with our current debt and what our availability is. You know, we do have, again, I think our bond rating is good because I think we've done a nice job paying down that debt, so that helps us get better rates on our bonds, so they'll explain some of that. I've had meetings with our stakeholder groups, so our teachers groups, our coaches, our administrators. I went over and met with our bus drivers. I've asked folks to send me suggestions. All those things went on a giant list, and then we submitted that to the architects and to the construction management team. Those groups have been on campus multiple times. They were here just last week. Like, one of the things that I hear consistently from folks is like our dugouts at every one of our athletic facilities. Our soccer teams need dugouts. The baseball, softball could use dugouts. So when we talk about enhancing our athletics, what does that mean? So the architects went over. We talked about the seating at the soccer field. You know, we need more seating at the soccer field. So the architect went over and took a look at that. And so tomorrow, when they're here, they'll talk about some of the things. We heard from our music department that they could use some more either practice rooms and or storage. And so what might that look like? And so the architects will present some diagrams. What would it look like if we added classrooms to the ECC? What would it look like, if you add those classrooms, you're going to need a bigger office, you're going to need bigger cafeteria. So what would that look like? And so they'll present some preliminary ideas. And then we're hoping that the community then, if they have ideas, things that they would like to see, that they can share those with us at that time. And then we take that information to the steering committee. The steering committee then will they start to refine the list, because my guess is if we did everything that's on the list, it'd be about $200 million, and we're not going to get that. But they'll refine the list. We'll publish that list. We'll have chances for people to give feedback. We'll have another steering committee meeting. We'll have another community forum in February. Then we'll have the steering committee meet again. And I also think that some of our board meetings are an excellent chance where I'll be sharing some information, and parents, again, could come to a board meeting and at public comment share some ideas. So lots of opportunities for folks to share ideas. They can email them to me, and we'll make sure it gets to the committee. But that's how it'll go, yeah?
What is the goal for how much money are we gonna go for? Like, what's the goal? Or the thought? I know it's not gonna be finalized just yet, but.
I'll know better tomorrow. My understanding is we can ask for, I wanna say it's like $92 million without raising anybody's taxes. And I think we can do that. I think that's probably the smart way to go, because again, we gotta add classrooms at the ECC. The high school really needs some remodeling, our weight rooms, our locker rooms, the cafeteria. My biggest concern with a number like that, and I've already expressed it to the architects and the construction management team, is if we're gonna put this much money into it, people ought to be able to walk onto our campus and go, wow. They spent $90 million, but wow, I see it. I don't wanna spend that kind of money and you have to work your way into campus before you start to see improvements. It should be really obvious that we've invested that kind of money. So, but I think we're somewhere over the $90 million range.
Okay.
And this is just a unique opportunity for us because, again, every other time the district's gone for a bond, they had to build a building. There was a whole building that you were trying to build, and that took up most of your bond. So last time, you had a $29 million bond, and $21 million of it went to the ECC alone. That doesn't leave much money for improving athletic fields. This time, of that $90 million, it's probably going to be hopefully closer to a 50-50 split, or 60 on academic and 40 on athletic. This is an opportunity to really invest in our athletic facilities, I think. So.
Clarify your comment about not raising the taxes.
Yep. Yep, so we pay 12 mills right now on your property. So you pay 12 mills on your home. if, if we needed to, in previous years, you may have gone out for a bond and you had to increase that from whatever. So we are the highest in the county. Some other districts might pay 3 mills, some might pay 6 mills, some might pay 7 mills. But again, part of the reason why ours is so high is because we don't have that industry base that helps pay down those bonds quicker. But yeah, so we pay 12 mills, so whatever you're paying in taxes this year, if the bond proposal passes in August, you will pay the exact same amount going forward, unless your property value goes up. Well, yeah, but a second property, that gets, Scott, doesn't that get taxed through the non-homestead millage, right? So it's separate than the bond.
So it applies only to homeowners
I believe so.
who live in their own
Yeah.
residence.
Yeah,
Okay, that
yeah.
will
And the reason we can do that is what will happen is you'll have to extend. So if it's 24 years to pay off the rest of the bond, it'll go to like 32 years to pay off the bond. So you're basically just extending that out. It's like if you own a home and you kind of take a second mortgage, you might still make the same mortgage payment, but instead of paying it off in 22 years, you got to pay it off in 28 years. Yep. Okay, so that's it for the bond update. All right, public service announcement on snow days. I'm going to get this out where I got a chance while I have the floor. I'm going to say it. So one of the things, and again, I don't get a lot of pushback, and I appreciate that. I think people generally understand. Friday was one that we just hated to call, but I think there were reasons why it still made sense. But I think, again, just to make it clear for everybody, some of the things we think about, I went out today about 2 o'clock and went down towards 48th Street, and I was going 30, 35 in my nice big Dodge Ram with 4-wheel drive. It was ugly out, and that's just on Lake Michigan Drive. And so when you get off on some of these side roads, it's really dicey out there in my truck, somebody's Honda CRV or whatever they're driving, it's gonna be tough. But now think about our buses trying to go down those roads. So I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that, hey, these roads are kind of drivable. Well, they're drivable in your sedan, but that doesn't make them drivable with a 77-passenger van or bus. So I hope folks will just keep that in mind. And for us, the reality is, about 50% of our kids come to school on our buses. So it's a big deal. If it's hard for buses to get here, that impacts a lot of our kids. The other thing is, the thing I have to take a look at, and this week will be a challenge, is the cold. Because kids have to wait out at their bus stop in the morning, and if it's -10, -15, that's a danger for kids to be out at those bus stops in the morning. So that's another thing that we think about when we're trying to decide whether or not to cancel school. And then thinking about those roads too, teen drivers. We have close to 200 kids who drive themselves to the high school in the morning. Those are 16-year-olds. Some of them just got their licenses 2 months ago, right? 17-year-olds. Haven't been through much of a winter. And I always think about 68th and Pierce. That's one of the worst intersections, I think, in Allendale. In good conditions, trying to know when it's okay to go, when it's not okay to go. And these young drivers trying to make that decision of, do I have time to pull out in these conditions? They don't understand that yet. And so I think we have to be thoughtful about that. We have kids who drive to the tech center, for example. And so all those are reasons, things that we think about why we might want to close schools. But I also think it's important for people to understand there's other things that come into play for why, we don't want to put anybody at risk, but if it's like, well, we could go either way, we got to think about kids academically. This is exam week at the high school, for example, so it's important that they be in school. It's important that they learn. I'm sure Mrs. Murphy's already working with her teachers on, okay, how do we make sure kids are ready for exams to start on Wednesday? The other thing is, and it's a reality, is we have some kids who look forward to that free breakfast and that free lunch every day. We have probably 15% of our kids that are, in that free and reduced lunch area. There's real food scarcity issues for them at home. And so if it could go either way, we know those kids sometimes need that meal here. And then the other thing is, I know and recognize that it's a hardship for some of our parents. You know, sometimes it's a single-parent household where the parents got to work. Sometimes it's a two-parent household where both parents have to work. And it can be challenging on those days that we don't have school. Again, none of those things are reason enough to put kids at risk. But I just think it's important that everybody understands this isn't just as easy as looking out and seeing there's snow on the road or there's not snow on the road. We try to keep all those things in mind. With that said, I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But I just wanted to put that out there that, again, we can drive down the roads and think, okay, I'm 40, 50, older, driving on these roads. I've been doing it for 40 years. I can handle these conditions. We have young drivers, and I'm not driving a 77-passenger school bus. It just adds to the complexity. So I don't know if everybody had any questions about snow days or how we come to that decision.
Thank you for explaining that.
Sure, you're welcome. That's all I have.
Thank you. Board comments? We'll start down here today. Kim?
I just want to thank Dr. Cooper, thank our board for a successful year, and as my last year wraps up, I am looking forward to finishing strong. That's it.
Thank you. Liz?
I don't have a whole lot tonight. I'm looking forward to a good year. I think last year was good. I think we, especially toward the end of the year, had a good system in place, and I think it'll get better this year.
Thank you. Pam?
I'm good.
Hannah?
No comment?
Josh?
Yes. I like Rolos. People who got us Rolos tonight. Candy, to first grade. Class who made the sign for us, please make sure that they understand how much we like candy. It's been a privilege to serve. There's, nobody does it for $40, and it's been 7 years now that I've had the privilege to serve, and look forward to the upcoming years, and actually having my first student graduate this year. So that makes me feel really old, but still just looking forward to a lot of great years for Annabelle Public Schools and the direction that they're going. I'm happy to be a part of it, so thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, kind of the same thing Josh said. I'm excited, and as every year I feel more and more comfortable, and I appreciate the job everybody does and everybody's opinion. And there's a diverse group up here, and I think we do a great job working together. And I sincerely appreciate everyone's opinion and their hard work at all these meetings. I think there's 7 of us helping direct 2,700 students' lives. And I think we all do a good job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'd like to say thank you to the board for my first year working with you, although we all don't agree. But I enjoy the challenge, I enjoy the discussions, and I enjoy when you have suggestions to do things better or something that went wrong. So thank you for your patience and your grace this year for my first year. And next we have the action items. We have a motion to approve the middle school music department's field trip to Chicago as presented.
Motion to approve the middle school music department's field trip to Chicago as presented.
Support.
Motion by Pam, second by Kevin. And we are open for discussion. Garth, could you give some background, please?
Yep, this is a trip that they take, I think, every year, and what they like to do is go watch a performance in Chicago, some type of off-Broadway, just to get kids who are excited about our music programs, more excited about performance. it was asked, and I just want to make sure everybody does understand that we will do permission slips for parents. The play they're seeing is Mamma Mia, and so we will make sure that parents understand the play and what it's about, and those of us who grew up listening to ABBA know what it's about. But yeah, it's a trip that the kids have taken multiple times, and so I'd just like to support it again and appreciate our music, Mr. Wurst and Mr. Wagner this year taking kids.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
So kind of legoing off from what Dr. Cooper said, my vote will be yes for this tonight. I would just encourage the middle school band and choir parents to just make sure they read the email. It's a great informational email that has the synopsis where you can read everything about what your student or child will be watching and listening, so.
I actually was gonna say that too, whoever put that together, it was really well done.
Mhm.
You didn't have to dig, I think it's really nice for parents, it's very clear.
Mhm.
I appreciated that, so I think it helps them just know exactly what's happening. I thought that was good.
Thanks. I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Wurst, so I'll make sure he gets that message. Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor to approve the middle school music department's field trip to Chicago as presented, say aye. All opposed, say the same. Motion to approve the middle school music department's field trip passes as presented. I have a motion to adjourn at 7:11.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:11.
Support.
I have,
Before you take your final vote, I gotta throw something real quickly. It was brought to my attention that the live stream was not working at the beginning of the meeting. My guess is because we've had power in and out on our campus in the last week. They did fix it, but part of the beginning of the meeting was lost, unfortunately, so I apologize for that, but
Was that because of the cold temperatures?
no, the other night, the power, just the whole high school campus was out for a while, our bus garage. I think just the storm, I don't know if it was the cold, it could be snow, but just, in case anybody asks you, I just wanted to, since I got that information. It did get restored, the live stream, but it wasn't on for the whole board meeting. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. And apologize to those online. Any discussion about motion of adjourning? Any further discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Be safe travel.